Salam, bunks of metal. Tonight, we talk about Indonesia and all the metal shit that goes on there. Yep.
Hail, Metal Nation! You are listening to Podcasting Down. Yes, you are. Matt is pointing at the camera. You've already heard from Matt. You've already heard from me, Tim, and joining us, of course, is Doug, because when we're talking about metal on location, as well, it's increasingly been Matt talking about it, and me and Doug listening about it. That's right, listening about it. All right, so, Matt, get to work. Entertain us with your story of how metal Indonesia was.
Well, I shouldn't. I can't even start to tell you the story about metal Indonesia without telling you the story of missing my goddamn first-class flight to Las Vegas, which all of you know all about because I purchased it rather than listening to some metal.
Oh, that's right. You were buying it on the air
back in October, November.
Your first.
I was buying my tickets on the air.
It was
so
just
the podcast. I'm down
to Vegas.
Well, yeah. See, because I had got a great flight, and there was an upgrade to get first class tickets to Vegas, and then on from Vegas to Singapore. But unfortunately, I did the most metal thing possible. And that is have a serious injury, which delayed my flight by several days. And I got a very metal MRI,
you got a James Hetfield
which uses the fucking metal in my blood to create a magnetic resonance imagery or something like that. Or maybe ions. I'm not sure how that shit works. But so that happened. So no Las Vegas. No metal.
How long is the flight to
there.
Vegas? It's like 4 hours. Well, it's 5 to California.
5 or it's not 6. I would say it's like almost to California, especially if you're going.
Yeah, you gotta.
Because it's like I would say the flight from LA to Las Vegas is about an hour. Wouldn't you say, Doug? That seems right. It's like it's like flying to New York.
The flight all the way
from here. I think.
Where do
it's only a 3-hour drive.
So
depending
it's not that far.
From 3 to 4 hours.
Go to Indonesia. What's the next stop?
Okay, well, you have two options because Indonesia is literally, I think, somewhere in the Indian Ocean near Indonesia is the antipode to Washington, D.C. So it's on the literal other side of the world. And because of that, you get to go 2 different ways. One way
Vegas
you can go
to Abu Dhabi.
Well, but that's basically where you would go. You would go, if you're on the East Coast, you would go to, somewhere in the Middle East. And then you would go to Indonesia. Or if you're on the West Coast, or if you want to go the other way, you go to like Japan or Korea. I went from DC to San Francisco to Singapore to Indonesia. We need to talk about Singapore too, as a metal on location bonus. So you can really go either way. And I go the Pacific way for one single reason, and that is snow. Because every once in a while there will be a snowstorm, and you will get stuck wherever you're going. Okay? Because you can't land in Washington, D.C. because it's covered in fucking snow. Now, if you are going through the Middle East, they will say this. You'll say, hey, I can't fly into D.C. because there's a blizzard. And they will say, well, that's fucking great. Have fun in Jacksonville. And then they just fly your ass to Jacksonville.
In an episode. Jacksonville.
Yeah. But if you're on the other way and say you're in Japan, they're like, well, we can't fly you out. You're free to stay here in Japan or go to Boulder, Colorado. And I'll be like, well, I'll just, bite the bullet and help you out, United Airlines, and stay here in Japan, which I did. And they let me do. So that's why I take that route, because I would much rather be stuck in somewhere fun without a coat than stuck in somewhere less fun without a coat.
Wait, is
that's
where's
that.
the equator on this damn thing? so it's summer in Indonesia.
It's in the middle.
It's tropical.
Well,
so it's always
it's
summer.
a tropical country, so it's like basically always sunny in Indonesia.
Sorry, it's these flat Earth maps. But hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's the outer ring. It's actually this is an interesting fact I learned the other day. Did you know there are no flights between any city in the southern hemisphere just because it would take too long to travel that
flat
distance?
Earth debunker video, debunking a video where a guy followed a flight tracker that when it hit the international date line, the way the software was written, it then jumped to the other side of the map and then continued on its way. Yeah. Clearly they're hiding something. Like, oh no, they're not hiding how terrible their programmers are. Anyway.
My favorite is the one where it's like proving Japan couldn't have attacked Pearl Harbor by like showing that they would have to go all the way around Africa and South America to make it.
In the good old days when airlines could afford to waste money and there wasn't disagreement on basic facts of the world, Pan Am would have a 747 constantly in the air going one direction and the other direction.
They should high five when they pass
the equator.
That's amazing.
Their hands would blow up. Just vaporize.
Hundreds would die. Okay, so all right, so I flew from DC.
That's
Dulles
not in DC
International Airport.
In fact, there are no major airports in DC. They're all not in DC. National's in Virginia too.
Well, I guess National is technically not.
And Baltimore, Washington is very far away from DC. But anyway.
I actually think that Dulles might be farther from DC than be.
I don't know, and the reason I don't know is because I fucking hate Dulles. I've said this on the show, I believe. I hate Dulles so much that when I came back from Greece, I flew to London, then to Canada, just so I could come into Baltimore instead of taking a direct to Dulles.
So, yeah, but if you're going that direction, you pretty much have to go to Dulles, unfortunately.
Oh, that thing is
sitting
the
a
worst.
Stupid people mover. That makes no damn sense. But they bought
what
90
is a
of them.
worse
Like, we got to use them.
Introduction to the country. You take an international flight, first time in America, you land at JFK and you're in like the shitty decaying airport. You land at Newark and you're in a different shitty decaying airport in New Jersey, or you're stuffed into the people mover thing in DC, in Loudoun County almost.
Chantilly. Yeah.
Relic from 1960s.
I don't know what's worse
or whatever. Yeah.
Doug, in a few short years, it will be a spaceport.
I mean, at that point, like, people don't like Atlanta, but like if that's what you first see, that's so much better than your other options.
Yeah.
Anyway,
then your other okay, so then I flew to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco I got to Singapore. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had injured myself and pushed back my flight by several days, but luckily, smart old me bought a non-refundable hotel in Singapore. So I still got to pay for 3 nights in Singapore, even though I only spent about 20 hours. in Singapore. But they were very nice. They said I could get breakfast twice.
What's
so that made up the
Singaporean breakfast? Or did they try to like Americanize it for all the international?
In Singapore, that might be quite an exception.
Well, it was actually pretty good. There was like, what do you call it in English? Congee, like rice, porridge, and sausages, and eggs, and little pan au chocolat. It was a decent breakfast. I had my fill, and then I went to the one thing that I needed to go to in Singapore, and so I fucking got my gimpy broken leg, and I hopped on the subway train, great in Singapore, and I went to Har Pa Villa. And if anyone out there in Metal Galaxy wants to do one thing in Singapore, it's go to Har Pa motherfucking Villa for the Hell Museum.
I just noticed where Singapore is in relation to Indonesia. You overshot it.
Well, no, I wasn't going to that part of Indonesia. I was going to the regular, a different part. So I was close to Indonesia, but I didn't overshoot it. So Har Pa Villa. Let me tell you about Har Pa Villa. Number one, you should love it because it was made with the money that Tiger Bomb. It's the founder of Tiger Bomb. So all that Tiger Bomb goodness went to the creation of Har Pa Villa. The guy
I see what it is now.
Made it is a weird, it's a weird eccentric guy. And they have like, for some reason, a bunch of crazy statues, among which is Chinese hell. So I went straight to fucking Chinese hell. And not only did they have all the Chinese hell like dioramas, but they also have this really interesting exhibit about death. So it was really fucking great. And I have been so excited. I've been wanting to go to this hell amusement park for so long, and I was glad that within my 20 hours in Singapore, even though I probably risked permanent damage to my knee, I fucking trucked all the way across the fucking city to go there, and it was great. And they have all kinds of things, like they show like people getting sawed apart with fucking giant saws, and people getting stabbed by demons.
It doesn't look like
it's
much
everything
from
you want.
On Google
it's
Earth.
Great. Everyone should go there. It's a weird little park. It's literally at the edge of the island. Like you can see all the big old ports and stuff.
If you go
going
to the
down.
website, it's two chickens fighting, but they're like they're people with chicken heads. But it's an illustration.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's all kinds of crazy shit going on there. There's just like I can't tell you what was going on. There's like dioramas of squids fighting, people dying in shipwrecks, all kind like weird morality tales. It's just great. If you love like concrete, weird semi-proportionate sculpture, you will love Har Pa Villa.
They have key sculptures and dioramas on their map, and it's all over the map. So it's like Thai dancer, Buddha pavilion, 8 immortals, medicine peddlers, Wusong killing a tiger, laughing Buddha standing, laughing Buddha seated.
They have the
Legend of the White Snake.
Oh, that's a good one. Do they have the sexy mermaids? They're pretty hot.
Statue of Liberty, sumo wrestlers, marriage grotto, monkey gods, flower and fruits mountain. The 10 courts of hell.
One of my favorites. Let me see if I can get this in the chat.
9 dragons. That sounds awesome.
Okay.
There's multiple legends as well. I'm not seeing what you were talking about.
Well, there's the Hell Museum or the Museum of Death or something. So that's where all the Chinese hell stuff is. There's this weird, crazy shipwreck, which I don't know what's going on except a bunch of fish eating people. But But yeah, it's just incredible. I love it.
This might be the episode image.
I spent 2 hours there. I wish I could have spent 8. Except it was really hot and I had to go back, and also my knee really hurt.
Pets not allowed in Hill's Museum Complex. Pets are welcome in our outdoor park.
Yeah, no.
Do you see otter? Our park has seen a widening diversity of fauna coming in, and one of our latest little visitors is a family of otters. Do not touch the otters. Do not talk loudly and use flash photography. Do not feed the otters. Do not litter or leave sharp objects in the water. Do keep your dog on a tight leash.
The other good thing is because it's a Tiger Balm affiliated establishment, I got to stock up on Tiger Balm for my injured knee, which I did, and I did. Okay, so that's
your knee
Singapore. Well, let's just say it still hurts.
Jeez.
But I'm gonna go to a surgeon. We might have a Metal on Location operating room episode coming later this spring.
If I wear all the stuff, could I be in the OR with you?
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can make that work. Hey, if I get a titanium knee,
that would be the ultimate Metal on Location.
I'll be made of metal.
Someone's got to live stream it.
Yeah, it'll be 100% Carcass surgical steel references too.
Ooh, fuck yeah, man. Okay, so then I go to Indonesia. So normally, I was a little worried because normally I go to a lot more metal places in Indonesia. But because of things like COVID and the current geopolitical situation, I could only go to 2 places this year. So I always start out in Bali, beautiful Bali. And then from there, I would usually go to like Sumatra or Sulawesi or Aceh. Some really fucking like in the wilderness type stuff, looking at fish, looking at monkeys, looking at palm oil, which is pretty fucking metal. But instead, we couldn't go to those places. We just ended up going to Bali and Jakarta. So here are some things you should know about Bali. Number 1, it is the favorite vacation spot of Australians.
I knew that.
And Russians.
Oh.
The 2 most... okay. Let's just put it like this. Cancun is to American shithead college students as Bali is to Australian and Russian shithead young people. So as you can imagine, there's all sorts of craziness going on. I once was in an urgent care in Bali, and I was with someone. I wasn't injured. I was with someone who needed to be seen.
Okay.
And this Russian girl in like a
you were with someone who you injured.
No.
All right, go on.
There was this Russian girl, very drunk, was sort of pushed in by her friends, and she was wearing like a white sundress kind of thing, and she was drenched in blood because she had taken a spill on her scooter. But luckily for her, she was too drunk to really notice, so she was just like, "Why aren't we at the party?" and just dripping with blood. And so me and the person I was escorting to the urgent care looked at her, and we looked at the nurse and said, "She can go first because she's drenched in blood." So that's the kind of metal fucking shit that happens in Indonesia. So that's right. There's lots of metal bands. Metal music is very popular in Indonesia. Lots of metal shirts. Everywhere I went, I saw Iron Maiden shirts. I saw Metallica stickers everywhere. I think I saw like what was it, Dawkins shirts, Iron Maiden shirts. Yeah. It's a pretty high metal intensity kind of place. It's hot, so like t-shirts are popular. Everyone has kind of longish hair. Weirdly,
According to Metal Archives, there are 1,821 active metal bands in
I would believe that. I mean, Indonesia is a very large country. So yeah, that scans. And yeah, it's just a fairly metal place. I mean, there's lots of temples, monkeys.
there's a band for there's a technical brutal death metal band from Jakarta called ARG.
Whoa.
AAARGHHH.
I mean, I think we might have to either review or interview them because that sounds
They put out a
amazing.
single in 2020.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of.
Looks like the scenes existed, since going back to the 80s.
Yeah, there is this really. I saw one of the places I went to is Bogor, which is the city like outside of Jakarta. I guess it would be like if DC is Jakarta, then it's Baltimore, or maybe Richmond. So it's like it's approximate city about 2-ish hours away. Or maybe Philadelphia, I guess. But it's a cool city. And I went to this really cool music venue that I wish I was able to go to again, but we'll talk about why not. It was just a fucking cool music venue. It was really metal. I wish I remember the name of it, but it was just like smoking and lots of smoking in Indonesia. Pretty metal there. Just like smoking and drinking and not great pizza, but it was just like a awesome
Sounds
music
like a metal venue.
And I said, I'm going to be here every night.
Was that in Bali or Jakarta?
That was in Bogor. And I really wish I remember the name of the venue.
There's Jakarta.
Yeah, so Bogor, but Bogor. What was it called? Okay. Now, do you want to hear about what kind of do you want to be like? Do you want Cannibal Corpse gross out metal, or do you want like kind of like dark black doomy terror metal? Because I have both of them.
Well,
gross out metal.
Okay, all right. So the reason,
real quick. Let's assume the listeners are not as up on their geography.
All right.
Their oceanic geography. So you got Australia, right?
Right.
And then directly north of the eastern part of Australia is New Guinea, right? Papua New Guinea.
New Guinea. Well, we should say that New Guinea's cut in half. So on the east side is Papua New Guinea, and then on the west side is part of Indonesia.
Right. And so there's tons of islands, and they follow this chain swooping up into Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, that peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yep.
So halfway through that swoop is the island of Java.
Java,
Okay. And then just east of Java is Bali.
Yep.
And at the west end of Java is Jakarta. And then the next island is Sumatra. Which you didn't go to. And
this time. I've been to Sumatra many times, but not this time.
Singapore's kind of nestled right in there. So
Singapore's on the nose of the peninsula, of the Malay Peninsula. So it's like kind of like I guess a goose with its neck down in the water, right? And so Singapore is the beak of the goose, right? That kind of works.
Kind of.
Maybe.
So we are at the west end of Java in Jakarta.
In Jakarta. And the northwest
and
at the top.
Right. And Bogor City is due south-ish. and and it's about halfway across the island. So if it's 2 hours away, it takes 4, 5, 6 hours to drive from one coast to the other coast of the thin part of the island, assuming there was a road the whole way, which it doesn't look there is.
Well, yeah, I don't think there is. Yeah, but that's about right. That's about right.
There you go.
Now,
we are now situated. All right, now gross us out. Go.
Well, actually, some things I should mention about Bogor before we go. So, number one, Indonesia was colonized by the assholes of Europe, the Dutch,
well,
so because
I feel like there's a lot more than just the Dutch who are assholes.
Well, I mean,
go on.
No. But I'm saying, like, of all the assholes, who's the biggest asshole?
And the Dutch guy I've worked with the most actually described himself as an asshole.
Yeah, see, they're self-aware. They say like he drinks milk and pretends that's like not English. But anyway, they built Bogor, which was just something up on a mountain, because it was too damn hot in Jakarta. So Jakarta used to be called Batavia. It was the colonial capital. You can't really see it well on a map, but Bogor is up a mountain. It used to be its name in Dutch means something like carefree. So it was basically like where all the colonial administrators took their vacation. Buitenzorg is the word in Dutch. And so now it's like this. It's like the suburb where a lot of people who work in Jakarta, especially richer people, live in, right? So it's like the who needs to stay in sweltering, sinking Jakarta, crowded. We can go hang out in Bogor.
Wasn't there some Dutch colony in the area where they like built it up to look exactly like Dutch? The Netherlands?
I'm sure there were. I mean, there was lots of weird little projects they had in especially in West Java. And parts of Bogor look kind of European. But like there's a big botanic garden, there's the old governor's palace, for the governor general, which is now a presidential palace. So it's a pretty nice city. So the setting of this story is that we're staying in Bogor, but we have to travel to a mangrove restoration project in Jakarta. So keep that map handy, right? So we have to go all the way back up, not just into Jakarta, but through Jakarta to get to like the coastal area to check out some mangroves. Not only that, so Jakarta is the second biggest metropolitan area in the world. It is famous for its horrible, like, mind-numbing, like, suicide's a better option traffic. And so sometimes you just catch a bad break, and for whatever reason, what should have been a 2.5 hour ride became a 4-hour ordeal of death. Okay, so this is factor one. Factor two. We arrive at the mangrove project, the swamp, and they have laid out some snacks for us. But these snacks have probably been sitting out for several hours. But this is pretty common. Whenever you visit anywhere, they have snacks laid out. So I was quite hungry after sitting on a bus for 5 hours since breakfast. So I, maybe with a little too much gusto, tore into one of the snacks. Okay, so sue me. A couple hours later, we're done with the mangrove tour. Great mangrove tour. Really recommend it. They're doing a lot of important work. Mangroves are the kidneys of the land, I guess is a good analogy. But anyway, we're on our way back, and I wasn't feeling great, but my feelings go from not great to bad pretty quickly. But luckily, I have the wherewithal to say in the back of the bus, I need a bag. And then, in what was described with the loudest vomiting anyone's had ever heard, I proceeded to very audibly and perhaps dramatically vomit. But I kept it all in the goddamn bag. It was a fucking pro-ass vomit. Like, it was expert level. Like, I'm not even talking about a single drop went anywhere but the bag. And I zip-locked it, and I put it in another bag and
to keep it fresh.
Yeah, zip-locked that, and then, like, proceeded to wish I was dead for the remainder of the car trip.
Did he hit the traffic on the way back, too?
No, the ride back
or
was...
do you know?
Well, I mean, personally, it felt like an eternity, but I think it was actually much less. I was much more concerned about not dying. But, you know, I did feel much better. I wouldn't say it was a boot and rally, but it was definitely a boot and feel less bad than you did, thanks to that copious loud vomiting. However, I did get a souvenir from that forceful retching.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Ziploc bag.
No. Even better.
Vomit, yeah.
So, this has happened before, but it happened again. So apparently, now I did vomit several other times over the course of the evening. I also had a dream. Go ahead.
We need a timeout. What was the snack?
I don't know. I'm like it was like a little bun or something.
Okay.
And it was.
Well, I was wondering if it was like grain based or dairy based or meat based or.
There was also, I think it was like meat in rice in a banana leaf that may have done it. I had all the snacks because I was hungry. So I kept vomiting that night. I had really strange dreams involving Javanese ghosts giving me advice as to what to do.
Good advice or bad advice?
Well, I did take the ghost's advice, and I did.
So they said, get back on the horse and have another one.
No. They were like, you need to sleep on the other side of the bed and rearrange your pillows. Yeah, I was like, okay, and I did that, and I woke up and I felt better. So maybe the ghosts know what they're talking about. I'm not sure. But so either on the bus or through the course of the night, I burst a blood vessel in my eye.
Oh no!
Which
That's pretty metal.
Which meant that I was spent the rest of the trip with blood red right eye. And every once in a while, like I'd catch someone looking at me, like, "What can I do for you?" That was fun. It's also a culture that.
I was in Chinese hell.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, so that was fun. Okay, so that's kind of the end of the gross portion of our program. But it's not the end of the terrifying portion of our program. All right.
The ghosts came back.
Well, no, you know what? Frankly,
the ghosts sounded pretty mundane, though.
No, the ghosts were super helpful. Like, they were just concerned and trying to help out. They're like, well, what if you did this? They were nothing but cordial. All right.
Body orientation when sleeping is no joke.
I guess. I don't know. So, what's the most terrifying thing in the world?
Can I get like a multiple choice?
No, because
violent
As soon as I
death?
give you the multiple choice, I'll be apparent.
Giant spiders, perhaps.
More terrifying.
Giant spiders while you have sleep paralysis.
Okay.
Fire
They
ants when you're
can't
covered in
submit to
honey
the
with
state.
sleep paralysis.
Oh, I did get bit by fire ants, but that was just a minor thing. But yeah, that happened.
That's metal.
Okay. Sometimes they're charming, like when they do post.
Fire ants are.
No. The terrifying thing, like when they do post metal avant garde jazz, they're charming and great. But other times,
White people?
nope. Well, they are white. They do have white skin. But no.
New Iron Maiden.
Prog
No.
fans.
Well,
Prog fans.
no. They're not fun at all when they're doing.
I know you already said no, but white people?
Well, again,
The Lizard Men.
it's
The
a
Dutch.
specific kind of white person.
Americans.
They don't know. They don't know how magnets work. They have an insipid gathering.
Juggalos.
Yeah.
Well, not juggalos, but who is their leader?
Who is their leader?
ICP.
Right? And what's the C in ICP, Doug?
Clowns.
Fucking clowns. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but
Wait.
Bogor.
Yeah, there we go. Clowns. I need some
Bogor and
Calliope music
Jakarta
on here.
are infested with goddamn clowns. I am not sure what's going on, but all the buskers dress up like clowns and have this ability to appear behind
Oh,
you.
God.
So you're just walking down the street, minding your own business, just trying to find a place to eat bakso or, get some dinner. And all of a sudden there's a fucking clown tailing you. And it's not just any clown, but it's a horrible rubber mask face clown. And I legit said the phrase, I need to get away from this fucking clown multiple times, probably dozens of times throughout the trip. They seriously ruined my life. I hate them.
Keeps trying to get me to drink Fago.
Yeah.
What
they
is
just-
it? Is it a fashion thing? Is this like a reverse Blade Runner?
I don't know, Doug. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. They're just everywhere. There were Bogor has a lot of military people around, and for whatever reason, I was walking in front of a general's house. And I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Just here hanging out at the general's house when all of a goddamn sudden a fucking clown appears behind me and I've never been more horrified. It's just I just can't. I just can't.
Are they agents of the security service?
No, there's also fucking puppets. So in Bogor and more in Jakarta, search Betawi puppet, Betawi puppet,
Puppet.
and you will see these gigantic goddamn puppets.
Wait, spell that again?
Betawi. That's like the ethnic group that lives in Jakarta. That's like Jakartan people.
There
Or
it
Betawi
is.
people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what if I
looks
told
like-
you?
It looks kind of like one of those marionettes from the terrible 70s kids shows.
Mm-hmm. Now, what if I told you that those things are 7 feet tall and just also
fuck.
silently appear behind you and are just asking you for like, do you have any money? And you're like, take it all. Like, please, just leave me alone. Yeah. So,
And they got
it's-
big,
it's-
they got like stuff coming out of their head. They look like giant pipe cleaners.
They do. They're just nightmares. Nightmares walking in the flesh. Here, I'm going to send you silently.
And you're injured, so you can't get away.
Sometimes, weirdly, they're accompanied by music. Here's a photo of the fucking goddamn clown, just, staring at you from a restaurant. Yeah. So, does that not work?
Seeing a photo.
God damn it.
You have the actual photo.
Anyway,
error.
Okay, try that. Anyway, fuck these goddamn clowns. Okay. What else happened? It was Chinese New Year, which was pretty amazing. Except for some reason, people felt like they needed to tell me how to pray. So I'm sitting there, or when I was sitting there, I'm standing there at the temple, like going to pray for New Year, and people keep coming up to me and telling me what to do. I'm like, but yeah, I'm at the temple. I know what to do. I'm here. I'm doing it. And they're like, now go to this one. I was like, I know. I've been going that way. So that was pretty metal. Just telling people they don't know what they're doing.
Assuming you're wrong.
Yeah, just assuming you're wrong. Yeah, maybe I was wrong. I don't think I was wrong, but maybe. Yeah, lots of incense, candles. Those are metal. Malls, lots of malls. Malls are metal. I think those are the key metal elements. Unlike Belgium, which I felt I had a lot of animosity towards. Indonesia is a great place. I really enjoy it. And I think there's just a general metal vibe there. But it's intangible, right? It's very hard to actually encapsulate the metalness of Indonesia, except for horrifying clowns and helpful ghosts, mangroves, rice fields, etc.
It's a very pluralistic country, isn't it?
It can be. I mean, there's lots of different cultures there, right? So, various, many islands, many ethnic groups. So in that sense, it is. But in other cases, it's not. So, like the Javanese people, I don't think there's ever been a non-Javanese president, for example. So they're the most. I think they're more than like 60% of the whole. Java is one of the most population dense places in the world. So even though they're very kind of like rich in diversity, most, or at least the majority of people are Javan. So there's kind of this like imbalance there too. There's palm oil. Palm oil's pretty metal. Lots of palm oil.
I want that never to be explained. Just
no, nor should it be. But the fucking Dutch like people know. Yeah.
Hey, the listeners know.
Talk about food though. So
okay, food. Now,
how is the food? What is it?
Okay, well,
the stuff that stayed in you.
Right.
Okay, good clarification, Doug. So Indonesian food in general is good, but a lot of Indonesian food, especially where I was, is like variations on the same theme, right? So there's the basic like fried rice, fried chicken with rice, fried this, fried that. So kind of like the big staple foods tend to be fried or steamed. It's good, but there are, with the exception of some like incredible dishes, which I'll talk about. It's like, it's decent, right? Like I very rarely have like a craving for Indonesian food like outside of Indonesia. So I don't think, for example, it has the same like features of like Thai food or Vietnamese food, where it can like have this global cuisine. Do you remember when Babu Bhatt in Seinfeld made the Dream Cafe and was just selling Pakistani food? It's good. Like people enjoy it, but I'm not sure it's enough to support a global gastronomy. With one exception, and that is rendang, right?
I've heard of this.
There's a kind of it's almost like it's like a small plates type food. It's called nasi padang, right? So it's like in Sumatra, and it's kind of like a bunch of pre-cooked dishes and rice. It could be equivalent almost of diner food, right? So it's like traveling food, it's on the road food, and it's very popular. Whether you're like in the middle of nowhere or if you're in like downtown Jakarta, you can find it. And it's like rice and a bunch of small dishes, and kind of like the centerpiece, the keystone of this meal is rendang, which is pretty metal because it is beef, slow cooked and braised in coconut milk and herbs and spices. But to really do it right, it needs to be cooked forever, like forever and ever and ever, like hours, maybe even stretching to days. So when rendang is done right, like all that coconut milk flavor, all of that herbs and spices, like gets like absorbed into every cell of the meat, and it's just like delectable. It's indestructible. So after you make a really nice hunk of rendang, like it can last forever. People when used to take it on Hajj, right? So Indonesia is a predominantly Muslim country. So if you were going to sail, because back in the day you would sail around the Indian Ocean to get to the Holy Land, right, and go to Mecca, like you would just have a big old hunk of rendang on the boat, and you would just like warm up a little piece and slice it off and eat it, and it would last for like weeks, maybe months, because it was preserved through this cooking method too. It's delicious. It's great. I cannot recommend it. Go eat rendang. It's great. It's my favorite Indonesian food. And other food is great too. It's just like I particularly love rendang, and I think a lot of people agree. You can get it with all kinds of crazy shit. You can even buy it at 7-Eleven, apparently.
What's the most interesting appropriation of Western symbols or imagery?
Ooh, Well, there's that is a great question. Well, it's a very we don't need to go into Indonesian history, but it's a very kind of militarized society. So there's lots of like vestiges of like uniforms. Almost everyone wears a uniform of some kind. Like civil servants will wear a uniform. Security guards will wear uniforms. And sometimes it's actually really hard to tell the difference between like a regular old guy who's like standing guard in front of a building and like an actual police officer, because they'll even wear like Jakarta and like have a badge and have like epaulets and things. And you're like, oh, are you the doorman or are you an actual cop? So that's interesting. I'm not sure if it's an appropriation per se, but do you remember those like clicker clacker toys? So I remember them as like two plastic balls on the end of a stick,
Yes.
right? And they're kind of hinged, and you could like hit it, and they would go like tuck, 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 tuck. Okay, so those fucking things are everywhere. They're called Lotto Lotto, and except instead of a rigid plastic material that the balls are on and a stick, they're just on strings, which also turns them into a low-key weapon. But everywhere you go, kids are playing with these things, trying to make them go fast, trying to do different tricks with them. So if you're in an area with a lot of children, there's like an incessant clacking going on. And at first you're like, that's kind of cool. And then you're a little intrigued. And then you're just like, can I get a fucking moment to think with all just like clack, 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 clack. They've been banned in schools and they should be. Let me think what else. There were lots of like there was a really metal museum that I wanted to go to that was like about the revolution and like casting off the Dutch. But unfortunately, I was recovering from vomiting that day, so I wasn't able to go. There's just various things going on. It's a great place. Everyone should go visit. I recommend everyone in Metal Nation to go visit Indonesia at least once and maybe twice. 3 is pushing it, but at least twice. You know.
What mark is Indonesian culture made on the world that we're not aware of?
Okay, well, there's the gamelan music, of course, is very important. What other marks? Shadow puppets. There is what marks is Indonesian culture made on the? That's pretty. Sarongs. Sarong. Here's a fun word. So the word for glove in Indonesian is hand sarong. I mean, that's a pretty great description of what it is.
Well, you know what it is in German, right?
Isn't it like hand socks or something? Handbag?
Close. It's hand shoe.
Hand shoes. That's right. Yeah, very, very similar notion.
And it's not just hand shoe. You say it in German as Handschuhe.
Handschuhe? Oh, man. That's even better. Yeah,
I love it.
There's no real famous Indonesian actors. There's no real famous Indonesian, like outside of gamelan. But that just means, Doug, that they're it's time for their come up. They're the 4th biggest country in the world by population, I believe. Like they're a legit country. There's lots of islands and
young country too.
Yeah, it's just like 1945. So they got plenty of opportunities. The U.S. and it's
even the age of the population, right?
And then demographically young. That's why it's so fucking metal. Let's see what. Lots of motorbikes. I guess that's metal.
Joey DeMaio would say so.
Yeah.
Depends on how much they weigh.
Right.
Oh, actually, the national monument is pretty metal. So it's called Monas. It's in the middle of Jakarta, and it's a big, like, monolith obelisk kind of thing. But
I saw it on the map.
It's painted gunmetal gray, and then there's a fucking flame on top of it. I mean, if that's not metal, like it looks like something on. It looks like an artist's conception of Barud. What is it called? Baradur. Like, where did Sauron live?
Yeah, it was Baradur.
Baradur. Yeah, right. So it looks like a fucking Lord of the Rings kind of thing. That's pretty dope.
Dope.
It's topped with gold foil, apparently. Yeah, so that's pretty metal. It also happens to be closed a lot, so that's pretty metal too. You're required to wear a face mask to get into the mall. But once in the mall, very few people continue to wear the face mask, which makes me wonder what the point of it is. You can buy oral rehydration salts pretty easily, which I learned about. I don't know. I wish I saw some shows there. I was planning on it, but vomiting.
It would have either made you more or less popular at the show, depending on the show.
Oh, I know what's fucking metal. Okay. So there is this, or I can't believe I forgot this. Okay, so in Bali, is a very tourism focused place. In fact, COVID, let's get serious for a minute. COVID was horrible for Bali. No, that's serious.
I was being serious.
Because during the COVID years, no one could go to Bali. So they went from having 2 million visitors a year to 45 people in 2021. So obviously that destroys the whole economy. But now tourism is back and people are getting back to what they used to do. So one of the things that makes Bali attractive to tourists is they have lots of cultural displays. So wherever you are, I stayed in a city called Ubud, which is great, in Gianyar. Any night of the week, you can go see a music performance, see a dance performance. But there is a particular dance performance in Bali. It's actually an East Javan dance, but it is called a Sangyang dance, and that's kind of like a trance dance. And so in this story, there's a guy on a little hobby horse, I guess, a little metal horse. And for some reason, this horse really hates fire. And then knowing that this horse really hates fire, of course, they build a big fire that just makes this horse all angry. So they sing. It's it's not an instrumental kind of music. It's just a big chant. So they're all chanting, and the horse is bouncing around and doing this thing. And then they sing the horse gets pissed verse, and then the horse starts tramping on all these coconut shells that are on fire. And I'm still not sure how the guy doesn't burn himself. I'm sure there's a simple trick to it, but this dude was going hard as hell. He was picking up pieces of the flaming coconut husk and biting it. He was going all out. And he did this 7 times. So after the horse kicks off all the fire goes everywhere. They scoop it all back together. It flames again. The horse dances around, and then they sing that verse, right? Okay. This guy was killing it. And at the end of the performance, he was sat on the floor. He took his bow. Everyone clapped. The priest took him out of the trance, but then he literally was just on the floor for a good 15 minutes as people milled out. And I'm what? I don't know what happened, but this dude brought it. I've seen this dance before. Sometimes it's always impressive, but this guy was just so good at it. And he brought that metal spirit. Don't just trample on flaming coconut shells, but put them in your goddamn mouth. Give the people a show. So I need to give him a special metal shout out. And he's the metalist person of the trip. He gets the podcast him down, metal on location, metal citizen of the world award for this trip.
And there it is. Well, sounds pretty metal. So,
yep. It was.
All right. Well, until next time, Metal Nation. I had an outro and now it's gone.
Oh God.
I'll edit this out.
Oh man, I no, you keep it in. Keep it metal.
It'll be the Easter egg.
Okay.
Oh, I remember. All right. Until next time, Metal Nation, keep your vomit fresh with Ziploc bags.
Did you keep the vomit?
I did not keep the vomit. I threw it away.
Did
in
you
the
empty the bag or like?
I didn't know.
Throw the bag away.
I actually believe I handed off the bag and said, I'll be in my room. So I assume it got thrown away.
So it's possible someone has your vomit bag somewhere.
I guess it is possible someone has my vomit bag somewhere.